Meeting will come to order, please. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act for this meeting have been satisfied. Would you please take a second, turn off electronic equipment as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Becker,
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo.
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg.
I am here.
Before we do business, we are going to do something very pleasant. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, may I, before we perform the ceremony of the swearing in today, because we have a lot of members of our police department and our fire department here, I want to read into the record a letter that I received on Tuesday. Dear John, I'll leave out the first sentence. I would like to bring to your attention an incident that happened in the Margate Post Office on December 18, 2017, around 8:39 o'clock in the morning. A customer was in the lobby and suffered an apparent seizure. Being the safety officer for the Margate Post Office, I was summoned to the scene and immediately called 911. I left the individual with a nurse who happened to be in the lobby, and then I went outside to wait for the first responders. In a few short moments, they arrived. I was truly amazed and impressed how quickly they were at the scene. First to arrive was Officer Jessica King, and before I could show her where the patron was, EMTs Dan Germana and Darren Hutchinson arrived, closely followed by Officer John Barillo. Shortly afterwards, Lieutenant Chris Horney and the Margate Fire Department were on scene. All who assisted demonstrated the utmost professionalism and attention to duty. I was particularly impressed with the calm, cool, composed action of the two EMTs. They appeared two extremely young men, but their actions were those no one would expect, except that it was a seasoned individual. I would ask you to extend our appreciation and compliments for a job well done. He goes on to tell us how we should be proud as city fathers of our police and fire departments. Without question, I've said it numerous times, our administration in both our police department and our fire department and the leadership that exists there gives the people of the city of Margate a comfort level that you could not even imagine. So the job you guys do, and ladies, every day is important to us, and I think it's well worth mentioning tonight with everybody doing this council change. So we're going to move on and perform the swearing in. And what I'd like to say about that, I'm not so sure, I might be taking some of the chief's thunder, but what I'm proud of also is that the police administration worked with me several years ago and instituted what I call our Class 2 Officer Feeder Program, where we bring our Class 2s in, let them learn the city of Margate, they get their immediate Class 2 training, but it gives us the time to observe and our administration to understand and work with these young men and ladies and give them the opportunity to get a job and get employed in the Margate City Police Department. One of our longtime Class 2s, Harry in the back corner, is now a firefighter and a great Class 2 officer and a great firefighter from what everybody tells me. Now we have, you guys were partnered up a lot, right, Jake? Come on up. It's your turn now. Jake's waited for this day for what, 3 years? Yes. So it's a good day for you. Who would you like to hold the Bible? Where's the Bible? I got it.
Got some.
The bishop's gift. Thank you. Raise your right hand.
Yeah. Mary?
I state your name.
I, Jake Rando,
Do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of the office of Law Enforcement Officer in the city of Margate City to the best of my ability and understanding. So help me God. Congratulations.
Aaron. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
For those of you who would like to stay and attend the meetings, you're welcome to. I thought that would get their attention. We'll start with you today, department head reports, okay? All right, at this point, we'll continue with our meeting. We will go to department head reports, and this week we will start with the clerk. Johanna?
Okay, we held the auction for the ice cream bid on last Tuesday, the 9th. The low bidder was Paul Ryan from Jack and Jill. The approval or the resolution to award the contracts on today's agenda, I hope that you are ready to, or you're willing to accept that. We have, I was better prepared. We will have the auction for the parking spaces coming up in May. I don't know if there's any discussion about changing that in any way. I just want to bring it to your attention in case you decide that you would like to discuss it. And
That's a good idea, Johanna. Why don't we, everybody think about it. We have another meeting in 2 weeks. It'll be February the 1st, and we'll put it on the agenda for discussion.
okay,
That's Washington Avenue.
yes. And other than that, I think all is well. Oh, we had our mailing for the legal notices today that went out for changing the zoning for the waterfront district. All of that has been sent out, certified, and the legal notice will be in the paper. So we're on track to have that adopted, if you wish to, on our next meeting. Other than that, all's well with the clerk's office.
Thank you again, Johanna. Chief Tabasso.
Mayor, Commissioners, one thing I wanted to report on the fire side is that as usual, this year we participated in the Operation 6 Save a Life Smoke Detector program in Philadelphia at the Fire Academy, where this week we picked up 66 free smoke detectors that we give and install to our residents upon need, and that'll save us around $1,000 by getting those detectors donated to the fire department. And since we've participated in this program, we've installed over 3,000 smoke detectors in Margate. And we're very glad that people are taking part in that very important program. Also, I wanted to let you know we have brochures up front on carbon monoxide alarms. If anybody in the public has any interest, you should grab one of these. They're up front. Read it, and we can educate you and install that for you also, free of charge. That's all I have to report, except that it's my last official meeting, and I'd like to thank my oh, they're not here.
Thank you.
Thank
Tony.
you.
Thank you. Johanna, did you have something to add?
Tony, I did want to say it's been a pleasure working with you for the last 18 years that I've been here, and I'm going to miss you, and I wish you well in your retirement.
Thank you very much.
Sure, go ahead. Absolutely.
Well, I figured we'd do it during the other comments, but since Johanna started the ball rolling. Tony, yes, this is your last meeting, and it should be a proud moment for you, all your accomplishments, everything as far as your leadership in the fire department. The product that's put out on the street every day is a direct reflection on the work that you've done and Danny have done through the years, especially groom the young guys coming in, and especially, you know, working side by side through your career as lieutenant or captain, and working with the captains that are there now, and have a good sense of camaraderie, brotherhood, and really a great morale in the fire department. So, you know, again, congratulations. It's a good time. Make sure you enjoy it. Right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Tony, I also want to thank you and wish you well. Working with you was, you know, my pleasure. I'm happy for you that you're retiring at an age when you can still enjoy life. So go out there, stand tall, and enjoy life, okay?
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate that.
I don't have anything to add. We're happy to see you. No. Well, you've done a great job. You're a great man, a great human being, and you've left Margate City better off than we were before you came. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Anyone else?
I appreciate that. Please stop. I planned on coming to at least one more meeting, and I'll get emotional with that one.
You're going to have to buy your way in after this one, Tony.
That's right.
Okay. Let's see, where is that?
I think we're up to the chief.
Chief Wilson.
I know you forget about me all the time.
No, that's great. Absolutely.
Here's the microphone. Tony, gonna miss you. It's been a pleasure. Just to dovetail on what Commissioner Amadeo says, it's a great day for the police department again today. The interesting thing to note is our last 3 hires have come through our SLEO program, which has been a great thing for us. So I want to thank you for letting us do that, and hopefully we can continue to get good people out of that program. Other than that, everything's great.
Cool. At this point, I guess I should have done it at the beginning of the meeting. I want to introduce you to Dawn Vaselli, who is sitting in Rich Deeney's chair, and she will be the temporary business administrator until Rich gets back, and we're very happy to have her aboard. And thank you very much for being here for your first meeting. Would you like to say something? You have 5 minutes.
Well, I did want to say that Rich did ask me to pass along his congratulations, being as he would not be here personally to say that, so I just wanted to make sure that you knew that.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Dawn. Ed?
Tony, great chief, even better friend. I'll miss you. I know. And I'm jealous. No. Thursday, I'm sorry, no, this was yesterday. We had we were supposed to have a FEMA inspection of this building, and the Office of Emergency Management showed up, and the FEMA people did not. So we have rescheduled it for next Thursday, and Fred has given me access to all the rooms so that I can take them through. In the meantime, they gave me a 3-page letter asking for explanations on different things, which I'm going to work on, and try to have as many answers as I can before the next meeting. On the agenda tonight, we have the authorization to go to bid for raising of the lifeguard headquarters. The plans are ready. I have them with me. I wanted to sit down and have some discussions before we advertise them on how we want to access the beach from the building. We can do a ramp from the building to the top of the dune, but it's close to 100 feet. So we have to talk about whether we want to do that bridge or not.
You may.
Thank you. I had spoken with Janet and Bill Dixon and even Rosenblatt when they originally offered to pay the tab to raise the building, that it was still, because my goal was to get it right up close to the,
Right.
and they won't let me move it. So they're going to leave that dune, the natural dune that was there, was supposed to be left as a stockpile.
Okay.
That after either the contractor that's running it, raising it, or I'll get permission from Frank to use city workers, just to move that sand from the front of the lifeguard stand to the top of the dune. And we figured, you had mentioned we could use an I-5 material.
Yes.
We could bridge from the deck to that point and put I-5, and even if we use Moby mats on the top and down the slope, it gives them quick access to the beach.
Yeah.
So I think it's a work in progress.
Okay.
So I think, until we see I vision the elevation, it's going to be like 8 foot higher than what it is now.
Oh, it's up there,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think until we see it and really understand it, it's going to be,
Well, I mean, we can bid it with it, we could bid it without it, we could bid it as an alternate.
well, we have a set amount of money. I'd say bid it as an alternate, and if we have to drop the alternate because we're over
Okay.
the budget that the state gave us, then that's the way. Would you agree, Mayor?
I do.
Maury?
Yeah.
So put the alternate in there, and if we
If
have
we-
that not to exceed 200,000.
Okay, and we did talk, Joe Johnson from my office has been communicating with Dandy Pasquale on this, as well as the street end drainage, to make sure that they would not have a problem with us driving piles into the dune if we needed to support the structure.
Oh, good.
So we'll have that resolved. We have Angler's Roost. There was that letter that came in, the deficiency letter was sent to my environmental people. They are addressing those items. Once they're addressed, there'll be, I believe there's still a fee that needs to be paid. They will not release us without the fee being paid. But then, once that happens, then that whole it just goes away, and we never have to think about it again. Safe routes to schools. We submitted all the procedures that they required. We're waiting for their response on that. On the street end, the beach end storm sewer, there was a meeting with the Army Corps and the DEP yesterday or Tuesday, I'm losing track of it. It was Wednesday, it was yesterday, yes. And they had some questions. We're adjusting some of our invert elevations. Some of their comments, they realized were not valid. So what we did was send our CAD drawings to Jenna, and the Army Corps were going to mesh them with their CAD drawings, and they'll actually see how close we are on all the pipes. So that's in the process. We may have one or two street ends where we have to lower our invert, which would require a deeper concrete casting for the inlet, but we're pretty much locked in on where we are with our street ends. So as soon as those issues are taken care of, then we can tell the contractor to do a shop drawing submittal so we can get rolling here.
normal precast, we have certain catch basins that are going to be all, why can't we submit drawings for them, and the deep ones, wait until we know what the
Well,
exact design is?
He's already has his submissions put together.
Okay.
He may just have to modify them. And then,
It's
because
going
some,
to take 30 days, 45 days to get catch, get the.
exactly,
basins.
that's why he's got those lined up. It's just that there's 4 street ends that we have to deal with. So, also, I believe the contracts are, have the contracts been signed here? Johanna? For the street end, Lafayette's contracts?
It hasn't come back for the mayor's signature.
Okay, all right,
I'm waiting for JJ.
okay. I'll double check, because I know we were waiting for the contractor to get
Yeah.
his stuff, so. But we've told them to get ready to roll as soon as all these questions are answered.
Okay, good.
Right, rubber tie check valves. There's a pre-com being scheduled as we speak. And what is our intent? We've requested quotes and have not received any from contractors to install that one at the end of Wilson, I believe it is. So our thought is, we're going to ask the contractor that has the contract for the other valves to give us a quote to install that last one. And then they'll all be done at one time, as soon as the bay stops, or as soon as the bay defrosts. So, and let's see. We've pretty much cleared up any of the complaints that we've had on the South Jersey gas main installation. We have been, when weather permits, surveying the curb and gutter areas that have ponding after their paving. So we should be a couple weeks away from going out to bid on that. I anticipate construction sometime in April on that project. And probably at the next meeting, we should be reauthorized to go to bid on our state aid. And that maybe at the end of February, beginning of March, we'll go out to bid. Hopefully the prices will come down. Let's see. We have requested on the tennis courts, on the at the rec center, we have requested a quote for the repairs that Andrew has requested on the other courts from the contractor who has this. If it's within the realm of reality, it may be less expensive just to add those other courts to this contract. He had put them in for next year's capital budget, but if they're reasonable and we can find the funds, it would be quicker just to get them all done at one time. So,
Keep that on your agenda. Okay?
yes, and the rest of them are really, there's not a whole lot of accuracy, of information that really needs to be. The dredging, I'll wait till Scott gives his report on where we're at with dredging.
Can I say thank you? Thank you. Before I forget, I'm going to call on Fred this time, so he doesn't talk to me when I forget to call him. So.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
We're actually doing a lot of work trying to figure out most of the HVAC needs for this building and the municipal building. So I've been spending a lot of time with CM3 and Bobby Gilmore and just trying to get a better idea of what needs we have as far as maintenance concerns and repairs. I do believe on the agenda is a resolution to continue with the co-op for CM3 who was in that co-op. I'm pretty sure that's on there.
It is.
It is.
That helps us out a great deal. What we've found is that CM3 just seems to have the expertise, the knowledge and expertise that we need for the different variations in these buildings. We're all very comfortable dealing with them. They do not gouge us. They're very honest, and we do get a lot more than what they actually charge us for when they come and work. I am in the process of putting all that information together, so we have a good number for capital improvements and also for operating expenses. And that's all I have. Tony left. I was going to tell him that the next time is going to be really embarrassing for him. So, but he left. He stepped out. He stepped out. Yeah. But
Thank you, Fred.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Fred. Roger?
Now Tony's left the room, I scratched it
Yeah,
off.
scratch.
I concur with Fred about CM3. We joined the same co-op in Ventnor with success, and I recommended they be here in Margate, join the same co-op, and we're sharing the same success in both towns. Also in the agenda tonight, you'll see the 3 bids for janitorial, landscaping, and video pipe services. I made recommendations that we award all 3 to lowest responsible and responsive bidders. I think we had 2 of the 3 are returning vendors, and we're pretty satisfied with their work. The zone change will be coming to the planning board next week for just reaffirmation to the governing body for the following week. Planning and zoning is still ticking along at a pretty good pace. Inspections are picking up, and that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you, Roger. Jim?
Nice tie, Mayor. I like that. Must be your grandson, right?
Nope. My great-grandson.
Great grandson. Get it right. I'd like to take a minute to thank Frank and his crew, Kevin and Bob. We had a pipe break on our heating line when that really bad, was that snowfall? That was Thursday, the 5th or 6th, something like that. We had 2 inches of water in our building department. If it wasn't for those 2 coming along and helping us get that water out of there, we would have been devastated. Everything got wet. The roads got wet. Files got wet. Congratulations, Tony. Glad you made it back into the room. Can I have the keys to the Tahoe?
You got to fight Danny for that.
Dan, get over here. I really appreciate everything Frank did. There was water coming off the ceiling, and they fixed all the ceiling tiles this weekend and steam cleaned the rugs. So we're all back in business. If it wasn't for those guys getting that done, it would have been, don't know what could have happened. We're busy. As you know, Gina's been filling in for Kelly while she's taking care of the baby. So we're down a man at the counter, but we're still able to maintain the workload. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Jim. Frank?
We've been busy fighting the weather. We've been dealing with a lot. We've been out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We shut off about 150 homes that we got calls on. We know there's a lot more, but we're hoping for the fall this week to take care of that. We were out during the snowstorm the whole time. We have been putting salt down. We went through about 125 tons of salt, which we've reordered to stock our pile. I'd just like to say one thing to Tony about all the years we worked together. I enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy your retirement, because I'm a little jealous right now, you know what I mean? But me and Tony actually went to first grade together, and we've known each other our whole life. And it's been very nice, very great. We know each other's family and everything.
Thank you, friend.
Anything else,
Happy
Frank?
retirement.
Thank you, Frank. Scott?
Number of things, Mayor. First off, I'd like to say hello to our new acting city administrator, Dawn. Pleasure meeting you, and welcome to the table. I have a number of things that you'll probably be getting involved with. I want to talk to you briefly about the wireless facilities consultant, the bulkheads, dredging, but I see that Mr. Balanson is here. Is he here? Yes, he is. Why don't we deal with that first? And that is the issue regarding the Barbary Coast. I understand that the city clerk is first. his correspondence. Mr. Balanson had called me up. I don't know if you have this or not. I hope you do. I have extra copies.
I made copies.
Everybody's got them? Okay. Well, you have one too. You're gonna learn about bulkheads now.
We're not on
Okay, you know that?
tape, right, Fred?
What's that?
I'm not dressed. We're not on tape or anything, right?
All right.
Video?
So,
You're on video.
Am I?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not
Name,
dressed.
name and address,
I need
please.
I need a tie. You want me to start?
I'll just give him an overview.
The,
Real quick. Wait, just let me give him an overview.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So the property we're talking about is the old Integrity Marina, formerly known as Angler's Roost. You'll recall last year there was a title issue regarding the strip of land between the bulkhead and the Amherst Avenue right-of-way. The city of Margate now owns that strip of land, which is shown on this plan to be about, I think it's 175 feet. We've got fee simple title to that. And remind me, as a related issue, this Angler's Roost and clearance, whatever we have, we should, why don't you show me that too, just to make sure we don't have an oil tank problem.
Mo.
Now, what
Turn your mic
Balanson
on.
is asking for his client is they want to rehab, well, they're gonna rebuild the whole facility, and they want to move the building over. I'm gonna let Chris take over in a second.
What? Okay.
But the big one is, they want to replace the 175-foot of bulkhead. Now, if you recall, there was discussion earlier about
We don't really want to.
giving it, huh?
We will.
Well, it's a part of the, we've done this on the ocean front,
Yes.
very successfully. And of course, that bulkhead's shot. And so I'm gonna let him take it over now, and I asked him, put it in writing, come to you as the governing body. We'll see where we go.
Thanks, everybody. Barbary Coast LLC is the applicant. Jimmy Leeds and his wife Jill are the principals. Jimmy has made a significant investment in purchasing Integrity in August with the hopes of relocating the building about 8 feet to the west, 8 feet toward Longport, to create some separation between his building and the building that Sean Gormley now owns, which is Captain Andy's. And then rebuilding that building over the water and extending it over the right-of-way, which is now parking on Amherst Avenue that the city just reacquired Title II. Obviously, a DEP, a CAFR permit's required for our work, the rebuilding over the water. We're in the process of doing that. The expansion of the building over the parking area is over land, obviously owned now by the city. For that, I'm not really here to discuss that yet. What I'm here to discuss is part of our project is to replace the bulkhead, which is owned by the city. And Jimmy owns and Barbary owns 175 feet of that frontage contiguous to the city's parking. We're in a position to replace the entire city-owned bulkhead, relieving obviously the city of the obligation to maintain it or replace it ultimately, because I know you're doing the pedestrian pavilion project, which I assume would contemplate a replacement of the bulkhead because the pavilion and the walkway is going on top of the bulkhead. In exchange for that, and it's not a give and take, something we would like the city to consider would be a conveyance of some parking spaces. John, we previously talked about 12 or 18. We're way off that number. But what we have looked at is parking sufficient to park the building. Meaning, what the building will be is, it's going to, if anybody's seen the markings on the existing building, it's a velocity zone because it's over the water. So that building is going to be about 12 or 13 feet above grade. Underneath that building at grade can accommodate an elevator for the floors above, stairs for the floors above. The pavilion project can run right under that building, and the parking space is contiguous and underneath the building. There's 4 parking spaces that would be approximately under the building, and we were going to make a request that the city convey those 4 because they're under the building, and 3 more. The number 7 is not a magic number, but it's a number that comes from what the building requirement would be for what's going to be in that building. What is proposed, there's no parking at grade required for anything being done down there. Jimmy's office is going to be on the first floor, and there's going to be 2 residential units above that. It's going to be a brand new building, going to be a gorgeous new redevelopment of that site. Hopefully Sean Gormley, who bought Andy's, does the same thing, and you're going to have kind of what everybody had planned for back in 1999 with the first master plan reexamination when the WSD district was invented or brought into existence with the whole new redevelopment of the waterfront. This now, 20 years later, could be the first sign of that actually happening. And Jimmy's prepared to make that investment with private money. He's prepared to replace that bulkhead at his cost and expense, take title to it if the city so wishes, which would be his continuing obligation then to maintain it. But for that, we would like to work with the city in having some assurances for parking for the building. Not for the marina, which is also going to be rebuilt. So the water-dependent use stays. The marina's not going away, the marina stays. But just for the building, for his office, and for the residential units above that. 7 spaces is something that we think is a reasonable request, and we would ask, since you have title, rather than do one of these perpetual licenses that we always do, if the city would convey that property, it would then be ours to maintain in conjunction with the building, relieving the city of having that obligation to come underneath the building to do that work. John, it looks like you want to say something.
Yes, please, Mayor, through the chairman, I have a couple questions, both to you, Chris.
Yes.
And to Scott. Just not a correction.
Sure.
Promenade. Promenade is
I'm-
the term, not pavilion.
I'm winging it right now.
Promenade is part of our master
I
plan.
stand corrected.
So for the public to understand, there is a promenade as part of our master plan that will incorporate all this. So we don't want to prevent that from the access to our municipal pier. But with that said, Scott, we would relieve ourselves of liability if we were to convey whatever the governing body feels is sufficient for their parking spaces, true?
Yes, I believe that.
So shouldn't we look not to have liability?
Well, there are so many factors involved here, that's a very important one. But some of the other factors are the commitment to keep it as a marina. I don't know if he said that.
He did.
To me,
The marina
as
stays.
a
Marina's being
marina
rebuilt.
guy, voter in Margate, it's wonderful if they refurbish this property as a marina. That's number one. Number two, the cost of that bulkhead, 175 foot.
$200,000.
It's
But I'm looking at the
free.
fact that for the city not to have liability, especially with a building over top of it.
Well, my preference would be that they own where they're structured to.
And that would pass the liability on, John, Commissioner. The conveyance of fee title would pass the obligation to maintain and liability onto the property owner.
Right. So how many spaces would be considered the property dimension? How many parking spaces?
You
Figure
have a plan.
9 foot is a,
It's 9 by 63 feet. By 18 times the same, 18 times 7 is 116, 126?
so we're gonna lose 116 feet of parking spaces?
No.
No.
It's 9 times 8, 9 times
9
9.
to 8 is
Or
72.
7 times 9 is what, 63?
Yeah.
You're showing 90. You're showing 90.
Okay, however wide they are.
You really
times
are
7.
winging it. No, it's 90.
However wide they are
It's
times
90.
7.
That's what he's talking about.
9
Which
foot
is
is
7
usually.
spaces.
That's 63 feet, guys.
But then, John, I was doing the depth as well.
They have
Right.
a landscape. Which my own feeling is you should get rid of it.
I have no problem.
This is an existing condition survey, that's all gonna change.
What he specifically needs at this point in time is permission from the governing body to make this parcel as a part of their presentation
To the
to our
planning board.
And then and I think you want the planning board to maybe take a look
Make
at
the
it and give you a
approval, sure.
recommendation.
Give a recommendation, we are,
I'm good. Maury?
Who parks there now? Just anybody?
anybody.
Anybody that wants to park? So probably the people across the street.
At
Park.
nighttime, all day, and during the daytime, just my experience is boaters, people who own boats. That parking is well utilized, so if there are two kind of high-end condominium units in there, a couple of parking spaces for each of those would be critical.
Again, Mayor, through you, Leeds is gonna have employees in his office. So those parking spaces would be basically for his employees, true?
That's how the.
Because I don't want to grant parking spaces and then his employees taking up municipal parking spaces.
No, the idea with office space parking requirements, it's for the square footage of the office. Generally, that's what you have in there as employees. They don't have a customer base really that comes to the office.
Right. Okay, thank you.
But I think you're looking for approval in principle here, right?
For some assurance that that's something we're gonna talk about and
Okay.
hopefully go
You're
forward
good.
Good.
Maury?
with
Who by
confidence.
me?
You got it, Chris.
That's great. Scott, I think it'd be a license agreement to have the building over the parking and then If the ground is, well, if the ground's conveyed, then I don't have to worry about that.
Right, that's why.
We'll further consider, but for now, you're gonna authorize them without prejudice to the city's position to go to the planning board with the authority to include this parcel of land, which we straightened the title out last year.
Could you put that in writing for the
I
planning
think
board?
the letter, Roger's here, Johanna's here.
Just 2 sentences.
It's on the record, so yes, we can give you a
Or
letter.
I can, however you want to do it, it's fine.
And hopefully the planning board may have some input on how they feel.
Correct.
And then we can further.
You have everything, you're leaving here today with everything you need for now,
I need-
correct?
Right now, I need permission to go in front of the planning board and include this land as part of the application.
We've agreed, Roger will get you a letter. Okay.
And before we start spending real money engineering it, I'd like to then discuss an agreement for the land, if that's something
Well,
that you guys
these
ultimately
three have
vote
to
on.
make their mind up on that one, but you're gonna lay it out and how, what you can live with.
You tell me when you want to do that, and I'm prepared to do that. Thank you very much.
Very short.
Thanks, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, as we move
Congratulations.
on, Mayor, I have a couple other ones. We made some pretty good progress with our dredging. As you know, we now have the proposals from our engineer, from our Stockton Coastal Research Center, surveyor for the issue regarding Shelter Island, and Jim Rotella. Actually, Jim Rotella backed off and said no, his previous approval, his previous proposal that was accepted by the city would incorporate the work that he's doing with this now. Jimmy's actually been very helpful in this very difficult process to try to get our dredging permits. What we're trying to do now is get the remainder of what's called NITWIF money. It's a grant, what's N stand for? National Fish and Wildlife. And as you saw, some of the emails perhaps were filling in the dredge hole was not acceptable, but restoring the edge of the wetland that eroded because the hole was there was acceptable. I think Farrell has it under control. They have their boats out there, going to be out there this week, I believe, doing some additional sampling. So we're trying to get every dollar from that grant that we can spend. We do have a time deadline of what, February 1, I think.
Yes,
So
everything has to be completed by February 1.
it's,
And invoiced and paid by March 1st.
but we're moving forward. This is it's a big deal, it really is. Okay, so now the next thing is this wireless consultant. Right before Rich left, he told me he wanted it, a wireless consultant. We have a number of questions. We've got T-Mobile that wants to renegotiate their lease. We've got the issue with Warren Stillwell representing Verizon, where they want to put those CADs on our poles, 16 of them. And if you'll recall, you guys were given the disc, you can take a look at it. There's a proposal. I think Rich wanted the consultant just to take a look at it. Somebody who's very experienced, highly recommended by some of the other communities that have used them. So I will have something hit. We did negotiate and knock down his initial proposal, and I think 5,000 maybe to start.
That was,
You good with
that was the number, yeah.
Okay, so,
Originally, they wanted 25, am I correct?
yeah, originally they wanted 25,000.
Yeah, I was in Scott's office when Scott said, you meant 2,500, right?
So, no, that's not happening. But it's a smart move to have somebody who really knows.
We're all
the
in the wrong business,
So we're
guys.
moving on. And then the last thing is, again, I saw Art Ponzia the other day, which kind of dovetails into what Margate Coast LLC is doing. Want to see if there's some forward action on the rest of the bulkhead on Amherst Ave. And so I'll bring it up to you and Eddie and Roger. We should be coming up with a game plan on this. Whether it's, I know, John, maybe you want to comment on this, pushing with the Army Corps, the DEP, or somebody, try to find the funding for we've got 800-foot bulkhead that needs to be replaced.
Well, it's my understanding, and Ed, I think you have to do, thank you, Joanne, you have to do some research, because it looks like the Army Corps' next big chore is Bay bulkheads.
Correct, yes.
And I know you met with them earlier in the year, last year,
Yes.
and there's a big push now. A group from the Army Corps is really, they have a good understanding of where the water comes from. So they're looking like it's
They're
going to
doing-
start moving forward.
They're doing the feasibility study at this
There's
point.
$13 billion allocated for Back Bay bulkheads.
We'll take that.
13 billion.
We'll, yeah.
So what would our next step here be? How do
Well,
we-
at this point, we
put
can
that
reach
in?
out to them, ask for a status, but when we met, they said it would possibly take them 2 years to do their feasibility study. We provided them with any mapping we had, anything that we had, we gave them, so that they would.
Who was your contact with the Army Corps?
Off the top of my head, I have the cards, but I
I mean,
forgot
can
the
we
name.
reach back out to them?
Through the tower, too.
Yeah.
Who
But
was
Jim,
it?
Jim did the grant application and all, but the actual, yeah, but Jim was there also, we can find out. I have the gentleman's cards, I have all their cards in my
We ought to
office.
start to build a relationship with the
Yeah.
Army Corps.
Do we need to design the bulkhead, or do they do that?
Oh, no, they'll spec it.
Yeah, they'll do, but in the interim, Lamberti's has a permit application for replacement of the entire length from Ponzio's Marina to
For
the
his
city
lease,
line.
Right. But that's only like 200 foot though, so.
Yeah, no, well, it's a little bit more than that, but, there are sections that, you know, that are not in need of replacement, they're just low. The end of our Madison Avenue, the section that used to be Gerwitz, I think Roy Goldberg then bought it.
That's a great condition, it's low.
Yeah, it's all brand new, right, brand new, it's less than 10 years old.
Well, we're not gonna put bulkhead in at elevation 9 and have a lower area. We gotta
Right.
make it all.
Yeah, so, but, I think we need, step one, we'll check the status of the feasibility study and see where they are with their funding cycle and everything. I also was waiting for just an update on where Lamberti's permit is at this point, because that would permit a large piece of it.
But have you approved the bulkhead design for Lombardi's?
And it's submitted.
Yeah.
They haven't submitted to you?
Oh.
They're just
They
doing,
haven't done any.
So really, you, city, should call the shots on that as to the specs, right? 'Cause it's
My
our
thought has
property.
been, we should have an homogeneous design along that whole bay.
Right.
thing, yes,
That's,
yeah.
that's what, I think
And-
that's what
and that bulkhead is in bad shape, there's no doubt.
So who's, yeah, it's in real bad shape, and with all this ice, probably a lot worse shape. So who's their engineer? Is it Barnhart?
Yeah, it's Ponzio's office, John Barnhart's been doing their work, but,
Gotta coordinate it. We gotta put some effort on this.
you tell me, you know, I'll go full speed on trying to get something to happen. I just, you know, we have, I want to do it in the proper sequence, let me put it that way, so.
But I think John brings up a good point, and I guess bare bones is just keep in touch with the Corps, because
Yes.
we have to improve our relationship with them.
That's why I said, man.
But, yeah, but he's gotta coordinate with the Army Corps, because you don't want Lombardi's bulkhead different from what the Army Corps' bulkhead, but it's gotta be.
They will still have to come in, Lamberti's has to come in for a bulkhead permit before, they have to get their state permits, but they have to come in for a city bulkhead permit, which then will dictate the design,
Do they need
elevation.
an Army Corps permit too?
Yeah, they'll need an Army Corps permit also.
That's good.
Good. What else, Scott?
I just want to say what a great job Frank's guys did in the streets. The day of the snowstorm that I was driving up and down, and I sent you pictures, your guys were on top of it. Great job, A+. And and there was a noticeable difference. Margate's Public Works guys are right on it. Everything else is pretty good, Mayor. It's all good.
Thank you very much, Scott. Marty?
Just one thing, thoughts and prayers out to Mike Colzer, who works in our building department, and his family. The city, he lost his wife, and the city lost a great advocate for our children and our taxpayers, and a long-term member of the school board last week. So just wanted to extend my sympathies publicly to the Colzer family. That's all I have.
The funeral is Saturday morning, correct?
9:30, I think the calling hours start.
Thank you. John?
I too would extend my condolences to the Colzer family, as Maury stated. Joanne was a special person. I had the privilege of growing up with her. She's a year younger than I am, and she lived next door to our chief your whole entire life. I remember her dad vividly. I remember her back in the days when she was a waitress at Jack Stropbeck's. What was the name of that? Stropbeck's, yeah. So it's a sad time, because she was a great advocate, as Maury stated, for our children in our school district, but also she brought a whole dimension to the school board as a senior and representing the seniors in our town. So she's sadly missed, and I will leave it at that. And again, Frank, without a doubt, the guys did a tremendous job.
Thank you.
It was a difficult task with 17 inches trying to get intersections opened. And as the calls came in, I just told people, please be patient. And the calls came back like 3 hours later. They came here, they're in the cul-de-sac, so it just takes time. Everybody gets impatient when they're locked up in their house, but great job. That pretty much covers it, man.
John, when was the last time, Frank, when was the last time we had that much snow here? Can you
Probably
remember?
In the 90s.
In the 90s, so a
Yeah.
long
No,
time
in
ago.
'81, we had 2 foot, because
Yeah.
I was working at Bally's when they were building
Right.
Bally's.
Yeah.
Certainly more than I remember
78?
since I've
I
been
don't
back.
Is that, okay, that's when it
And
was.
Dominic wouldn't close the schools. Had to snow 4 feet or more, you know?
Things just,
He had us there shoveling the walkways and
things
everything.
don't change in Margate.
It did, Dominic's not there anymore.
I'm going to repeat some of the things that were said. Joanne, very good friend, very good advocate for children, a real nice lady, and we'll miss her, we really will. Frank, to you and your guys, yeah, you make me look good. I had no bitches during that whole snowstorm. The first day, the guys were out 20 hours, snowstorms. And we had a couple calls, said, just like you guys said, hold on, we'll be there. And the idea is to get Atlantic Avenue, Ventnor Avenue, and the east-west streets clean first and then go back and take care of it. That was an awful lot of snow to deal with. The problem is we have really nowhere to put the snow, so we're just moving snow around. It was a great job once again, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody have anything else? Is there a motion to, no, we don't need a motion, we'll go right to public comment. Is there anyone care to address the board 3 minutes on any subject that was discussed here this afternoon? There being no comment, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll
make
move
that
to
motion.
close.
Second. No, it's too late.
Too late.
Next meeting.
Beginning of the next,
Steve,
beginning of the.
you had your time. You're sitting here in a daze. Go sit down.
We'll talk, not now, so I can't,
Motion to close. Do I have
I
a-
seconded it.
Close public comment.
Correct.
No.
We have to close public comment. Okay. Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
So moved.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Second.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
We will take a 5-minute break and we will begin